can shine a spotlight on literature with my idea, Lit Up. Let's blow the dust off our books and poetry and bring them back to the people in public places and unexpected spaces. A pop-up soapbox for the spoken word, a mini platform travelling to markets, regional fairs, coffee shops, laneways and street corners. Led by passionate wordsmiths, Lit Up would be like karaoke for aspiring readers and writers. Just imagine browsing your community markets to discover not only seasonal fruits, but to hear a word in season timely told from a simple soapbox amongst the stalls. Philosophy with your broccoli, Kafka with your coffee, the bard in your basket. Lit Up could connect to schools and libraries to engage young people in writing and reading workshops that culminate in performance. Like a pop-up book festival, Lit Up would breathe the wit and wisdom of words back into our everyday world, because the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse.
My big idea is for us to upgrade our small talk by just a little bit. I think it's so easy for us in our standard lives just to fall into the process of asking those standard questions. How was your day? Where are you from? What do you do? Why don't we get a little bit more out of our comfort zone and let's actually start having those conversations with people. Let's actually find what drives them, what inspires them. Let's ask them what's the last big goal that they achieved. What gets them out of bed in the morning? What wakes them up in the morning? In the middle of the night. The least we're going to get out of that, at least, is to just start to see things from a different perspective from someone else's eyes. The best thing that we might be able to do is start a conversation, a real genuine conversation with someone who might not have actually had the confidence to reach out to someone for some help in the first place. But now by doing so, they're able to start that conversation with you. Thank you.
Every day we eat and we dress. We've become conscious of where our food comes from. It's time to think more about our clothing. Do you know that 2/3 of clothing is synthetic, made from petroleum gas or coal? Australia ships 70 million kilograms of cast-off clothing to developing nations every year. And in the UK, 1/3 of clothing goes prematurely to landfill, and probably the same figure in Australia. I choose to wear upcycled, creative clothing that doesn't harm people and the environment. I refashion, reuse, slow fashion it's called. Clothes have stories, and if you think about where your clothes come from, you might have a better idea about whether they're harming people, hurting people, being beneficial, or good for the environment. So question, make choices.
We talk about dying in lots of different ways. People lose battles with disease. They succumb to drug and alcohol addiction, and they are victim of fatal violent acts, unprovoked shark attacks, traffic collisions. But we only ever commit suicide in the way that we commit adultery or commit fraud, arson, child abuse, murder. 5 weeks ago yesterday, I found myself in what I'm choosing to call a serious medical emergency. And thankfully, I survived and have been able to reflect upon that. I can guarantee you that if I wasn't here to talk to you today, there would have been nothing committed about that experience. I would have only lost a battle, been a victim of, or succumbed to mental health. Suicide prevention is everybody's responsibility.
My idea worth spreading is that wind power is more than hot or cold air. It's an energy option that's available to us right now. But new technology doesn't come easily. Remember where we didn't want mobile phones for fear of brain tumours? Fear of the unknown is natural when you're considering something you don't know much about, especially in technology. And the wind challenge is difficult because communities aren't offered an option between coal in their community or wind in their community. And the low price in Australia for wind means that farms are only economically feasible when there's hundreds of turbines. As a social scientist, I've been looking at the societal acceptance of wind farms. There's a majority who support wind or don't feel strongly about it. And there's a minority who are worried about possible illness and change. But most of us have a mobile phone in our pocket today because the known benefits outweigh the fear of the unknown. Wind power is sitting there as a climate-friendly, farmer-friendly option for politicians and communities to embrace.
Quick show of hands, who here has ever ridden a roller coaster? Have you ever really asked why? I'm a roller coaster academic who's creating an international documentary about why these icons of leisure exist. If you think that sounds kooky, think about how they've entered our vernacular. We talk about the roller coaster stock market or my roller coaster cancer journey. Nobody has to question that. We know what it means. Also think about how weird the act of riding is. The roller coasters are located well outside towns. It's very expensive to get in. It's not uncommon to wait 2 hours for a 90-second ride to nowhere. Nobody questions that. The reality is the world has changed enormously since the Industrial Revolution, but we haven't. We're still the same twitchy cavemen, but in a lazy consumerist society. And it's possible that the huge popularity of roller coasters and extreme thrill rides is due to the fact that they're one of the few accessible societal pressure release valves we have left. Thank you.
I was inspired to speak today by my 4 sons who have an incredible attitude towards life, towards their workplace, towards their family, and towards their partners. And it's an attitude. It's attitude I want to speak about. Can you imagine a world where everyone chooses to bring energy and passion to everything that they do? Everyone in this room was selected to come here because of their attitude. You filled out applications and were picked from as many other people based on your questioning and seeking of answers. The longer you live, the more you realise the impact of attitude on your life. It is more important than money, failures and successes. It's more important than education, skills. They can be taught. The remarkable thing is that you have a choice every day regarding the attitude that you will embrace. Your attitude is not going to change our past. It's not going to change the future. Life is 20% what happens to you and 80% how you react to it. Modify your reaction.
Research tells us there are many great benefits from increased interaction between children and the elderly. But how can we make this happen? Let's talk about socks. We all have a collection of odd socks, but imagine if instead of discarding them, they are taken in by a mixed group of children and elderly who are ready to transform each lonely sock into a lovable puppet. The result? A playground for storytelling. Am I right? Yeah! Words, idioms, ideas worth spreading, flying back and forth between the generations. It'll be awesome! By reusing our odd socks, we can nurture the next generation of our storytellers, and the socks won't be the only ones benefiting from a new lease of life.
My name's Jace, and I'm a Bibleholic. Alcohol can start a party, but it can also ruin lives. In the same way, people can develop toxic relationships with sacred texts, such as the Bible. When I self-diagnosed as having a problem with the good book, I was left feeling isolated from both those within and outside of my religious community. So I turned to social media to see if anyone else was suffering from a massive hangover with their sacred words. I was positively surprised by the response, but then again, I probably shouldn't have been. With church attendance rates continuing to fall, the polarisation of religious institutions continuing to increase, and oversized, under-intelligent YouTube threads left to pick up the pieces, there is a growing market for people who need a safe, therapeutic space to recover, and that's why I started Bibleholics Anonymous.
Hi, I run a performing arts company. I'm also a gamer and a nerd. So I like to create worlds and immersive experiences for my audiences. A while ago, we started a new project on fear, and we wanted to experiment with sound and temperature and vibration to create the physical disorientating effects you get when you're scared. Somebody near to the deaf community said to me, that would be a great work for deaf people. I create opera. It's something that I had never considered. However, it's changed the way I think about creating performing arts forever. It's something as simple as incorporating sign into a movement language that can make all the difference. But think bigger. Imagine if we had dedicated venues that use sound, light, temperature, and vibration to create music and theatre for the hearing and deaf alike.
Ask children the right questions. Regardless of the situation, instead of demanding a cause, such as, what did you do that for? Or dictating an outcome, I'm disappointed in you, encourage children to learn about effect. Ask them, how did that make you feel? How do you think it made others feel? And how can you tell? Encourage them to be observant. Ask them, would they like to experience those feelings more or less? Ask them if they would like others around them to experience those feelings more or less, and what they can do to affect that change. Imagine the potential of this idea. Potential in changing attitude, research, strategy, innovation, all through the desire for children to answer those simple questions. I would like to encourage you all to do so, and I would like to encourage you to get children to question their actions, question the consequences that they have on others, to question everything.
Children these days utilise technology to a far greater extent than I did when I was a child, and I just turned 21. Hi guys, my name's Jono, and I can't walk into a restaurant these days without seeing a kid using an iPhone. But the question I ask is, how many of these kids actually understand the technology they're using and its hardware's functionality? When I was their age, I sure didn't. And it was really an issue and something I had to teach myself when I became involved in startups, of which I'm immersed in today. It wasn't easy. Look, my idea worth spreading, and the question I ask is, what if there was a fully customizable DIY tablet computer that allowed children to create their very own device from the ground up, whilst also learning exactly how its internal hardware worked? What if this device could then teach them how to code and other necessary skills through fun, interactive applications? Let's stop asking what if and actually move towards providing a device that will educate our future leaders on something as crucial as tech is today.
Over the past 2 years, youth unemployment has been on the rise. It currently represents just under 40% of all unemployment in Australia. Young graduates are leaving university and finding it more and more difficult to enter any form of creative industry. Now, the common stipulation is that you can't get a job without experience, but you can't get a job to get the experience. Now, meanwhile, 42% of small businesses failed in 2003 to 2007, and the figures haven't improved much. Amongst many reasons this is happening is a consistent lack of quality in their branding, marketing, websites, and designs. The kind of training that these graduates have just spent 3 to 6 years training for. Now, what if there was an enterprise that bridged these two sets of frightening statistics? I want to build that bridge.